Anyway, so let's get started. So we are on Daf Lamed Amud Aleph. We are holding by the second Mishnah on the page. It says they all pretty much start with the same words. Yeah, all these Mishnayot, they all start off with the same case. It's three brothers. Two of them are married to two sisters. The difference is just what happens next. Who dies first? So in the first Mishnah, just in the Mishnah that we already did, the first Mishnah on the page, we had that one of the ones who's married to a sister dies, and then the third brother who's married to a different person, he either does Yibum or he does Ma'amar. That was the first Mishnah. So next case. Shlosha Achin, I think it's good throughout. We'll call them Reuven, Shimon, and Levi. Reuven and Shimon are married to the sisters. Levi is the third one. So Shlosha Achim, Shnayim Mehem, Nisuin, Shtei Achayot, Ve'echad Nasui Nochrit. So you have Reuven, Shimon, and Levi. Reuven and Shimon married to two sisters. Levi is married to somebody else. Met Hanasui Nochrit. Now, in this case, Levi dies. If Vekanas Echad Miba'alei Achayot et Ishto. And let's say Reuven, he does Yibum to Levi's wife, which so far that's fine. Umet, and then Reuven dies now. So Harishona Yotzet Mishum Achot Isha. Reuven's original wife is Achot Isha of Levi. It's Levi's sister-in-law. Therefore, she doesn't have Yibum. Vashniya Mishum Tzarata. And the second one is the Tzara, so she also doesn't have Yibum or Chalitza. So therefore, they're both Pturot from Yibum and Chalitza. Now, Asaba Ma'amar. Let's say Reuven, who's married to his brother-in-law is with Shimon, his brother. So let's say Reuven just did Ma'amar to Levi's wife, Vemet, and then Reuven died. So Nochrit choletzet v'lo mityavemet. In such a case, the Nochrit, the lady who Reuven did Ma'amar to, so she still requires Chalitza, because the Ma'amar isn't enough to make it that they're tzarot fully, and therefore she requires Chalitza. Okay, so she's not fully 100% at Tzarat Erva. Okay, so the Gemara says, Hatu lamali. Why do I need this Mishnah? It's pretty much the same rule as the previous Mishnah. The previous Mishnah was first Reuven died, and then Reuven's wife married Levi, and then Levi died. So you have these two ladies falling to the middle brother, falling to Shimon. One of them is his sister-in-law, and one of them is his tzara. So it's the same case, it's just a different order. In the previous case, first Reuven died, and then Levi died. In this case, first Levi dies, and then Reuven dies. But it doesn't matter. You have two ladies, one of them is an erva, one of them is her tzara, falling to the brother. So it's the same case. So hainu hach. So says the Gemara, hashta umahatam de'achot isha havya tzara lenochrit amarta nochrit asura. So not only that, it's even a kal vachomer, because in that case, in the first case, you had the sister-in-law being a secondary wife, right? Meaning what happened in the first Mishnah? First, Reuven died, and then the third brother did Yibum. So his secondary wife, his tzara, was an erva, meaning that his original wife wasn't even the erva. His second wife was an erva, and still when he dies, she is poter and poter the tzara. So in our case, where it's Reuven who's dying, who his main wife is the tzara, for sure there should be no yibum. So that's what the Gemara is gonna point out. In the first case, that the erva is the secondary wife to the nochrit, to the wife of the third brother of Levi, right? Amar nochrit asura, and she makes the nochrit asura even though she's a secondary wife. Hacha de nochrit havi tzara la'achot isha. In this case, where the nochrit, the wife of Levi, becomes the secondary wife to the erva, to the wife of Shimon, lo kol shekain, for sure she should be petura. So what's the point of teaching me this Mishnah? So the Gemara says, really, you have to recognize the order of how things played out. Tana hach Tana beresha. Really, this was the original Mishnah that we had. We only had this Mishnah originally. V'hach chazia lehetera, and we assumed that in a case where it's the other way around, in the case of the previous Mishnah, where first Reuven dies and his wife becomes a secondary wife to Levi's wife, in that case, I would have thought it was mutar v'sharia, and the nochrit would be muteret. That's what I would have thought. V'hadar chazia leisura, but then Chachamim understood that it's asur, and therefore they made the Mishnah, that previous Mishnah, Vaidi de Chaviva le Akdema, and since that was, a drasha for them to figure it out, and it was an important Mishnah for them, it was more precious to them, so they put it first. They put that Mishnah, which really should follow this Mishnah, they put it first. U'Mishnah lo zaza mimkoma, and we didn't remove this Mishnah. So the Gemara is saying it's true, you have a Kal V'chomer, but really this Mishnah came first, and then the previous Mishnah came afterwards, so it would have been teaching me more of a chidush, but we didn't change. We put the other Mishnah first because it was chaviv, it was more precious to the Chachamim, and this Mishnah lo zaza mimkoma, they didn't remove it. But either way, both cases are true. So says the next Mishnah, Shlosha achim. Achin shnayim mehem nisuim shtei achayot. So again, Reuven, Shimon, and Levi. Reuven and Shimon married to two sisters. Ve'achad nasui nochrit. Levi is married to somebody else. Met echad mebaale achayot. So Reuven, let's say, dies. Yeah, Reuven dies. Ve'kanas nasui nochrit ed ishto. And then Levi, he does yibum. Okay.
He does yibum of the third. One of the sisters.
Right. He does yibum to one of the sisters. Okay, umeta ishto, and then ishto shel sheni, the middle brother.
The second sister. Okay,
yes, exactly. The second sister, the wife of the middle brother.
The husband of the wife. Okay.
Right. So his wife dies. So now
his wife dies.
Yeah, his wife dies. So again, you have Reuven and Shimon and Levi. Reuven and Shimon are married to sisters. First, Reuven dies. Okay, so his wife, which is his sister, Levi does yibum. Yeah, so Levi takes the position of Reuven, Levi does yibum. Okay, so now Shimon's wife dies. So now Shimon is not an erva to that woman anymore, because the whole reason he's an erva is because it's his wife's sister. But after his wife dies, he's allowed to marry his wife's sister. Right? A person is allowed to. It says bechayeha.
Levi is already do the yibum.
Yes.
She's not available anymore.
Okay, but what's the next thing? V'achar met nasui nochrit. Then Levi dies. So harei zu asura alav olamit. Even though right now at this moment, it's not. She's not an erva to the middle brother anymore. She's not an erva to Shimon anymore because his wife died.
I think she's erva to Shimon.
So the halacha is no, but the halacha is that the pasuk says bechayeha, isha lachota lo tikach l'tzora legalot erata aleh bechayeha. That when a person, the erva of achot isha is unique in that it's only when the wife is alive. When the wife dies, he's not allowed to. He's allowed to be with her sister in a regular case. Let's say not a case of yibum. Somebody marries a woman and she dies, he's allowed to marry her sister.
Yeah.
Right?
Makes sense.
So over here, what's happening is Shimon was married to a woman, and Reuven was married to the sister, and then Reuven died. They did yibum. The other brother did yibum, and then Shimon's wife died. So now it's not his. She's technically should be muteret to him to do yibum, right? At this point, but. Says the Mishnah that no. Harei zu asura alav olamit. She, the wife, the original wife of Reuven, who's now falling to Yibum for a second time, and now she's falling to Shimon. No, there's no Yibum by Shimon. She's asura alav olamit. She's not falling to Yibum to him because she's asura hol v'ne'esra alav sha'achat. Because since at one point she fell, meaning it's only because she fell to Yibum as an erva one time, even though later on she'll fall to Yibum again and she won't be an Erva this time, it doesn't matter. Once she fell to Yibum one time as an Erva and she was Asura to that brother, so then it's, never again. Okay. Amar Rav Yuda Amar Rav. So Rav Yuda Amar Rav taught the following. Kol Yevama, we had this earlier also. Kol Yevama she'enani koreba b'shat nefila Yevama yavo aleha. Any Yevama that I cannot apply this pasuk to when she falls to Yibum. The pasuk says Yevama yavo aleha. Her brother-in-law has to be with her. That they have to do Yibum. Any Yevama that cannot have Yibum done to her when she falls to Yibum, so harehi ke'eshetach sheyesh la banim ve'asura. She's Asura. She's an erva of Eshet Ach, and she's Asura. That's it. So if when she falls to Yibum, she's an erva, she can't do Yibum, so that's it. She remains an erva. Even though in the future she may become muteret, it doesn't matter. And that was the teaching of Rav. So the Gemara now asks, well, this is the same thing that we just learned in the Mishnah. So why does Rav need to teach us this? So my kamash malan, tanina. Why does Rav need to teach us this? We literally just read it in the Mishnah. It says, Hare zo asura alav olamit, ho'il v'nei asura alav sha'achat. We just read that in the Mishnah, that she is asura alav, she's asura on him forever because she was asura on him for the first moment. So the Gemara says, not so fast. I wouldn't have necessarily learned the same thing that Rav is trying to teach us from the Mishnah. Ma'u detema, hanimili hecha delo echazia bin fila rishona. I would have thought that that's talking about that when she fell to Yibum the first time, so the whole time that she was a Yevama, she never became muteret to him. Then, if she falls to Yibum a second time, then that's it, she's finished. But aval hecha de'echazia la bin fila rishona, but if at some point during that first time, meaning she fell to Yibum, and when she originally first fell to Yibum, she was Asura. And then afterwards, she had become Muteret. So during that first falling of Yibum, meaning no other brother did anything yet, so I might have thought, Ema Tishtari, I might have thought that, since during this first falling to Yibum, she became Muteret, I might have thought that the brother would be allowed to be with her, that middle brother Shimon would be allowed to be with her. Kamash Malan, therefore Rav is coming to teach me, Rav Yuda Amar Rav is coming to teach me that no, even in such a case, there is no, she's P'turah from Yibum and Chalitza. So just to clarify, the Mishnah taught us that if she falls to Yibum one time and she's Asura to the brother, someone else does Yibum, he dies, and the second time she's Muteret, since she was Asura the first time, that's it. Rav is teaching me, if she falls to Yibum, even during that one time, the first time, she fell to Yibum, let's say she fell to Yibum, and the first, it took a few days for any brother to do anything. 5 hours after she fell to Yibum, Shimon's wife died, and now she becomes Muteret to Shimon. During the first time she fell to Yibum. Rav is saying, even in that case also, once she fell, that's it, she was Asura, and she remains Asura. So that's the Chidush of Rav. So the Gemara says, well, even that we have a different source for. Hanami Tanina, we also have that in a Braita. It says, Shnei Achin, Nisuin Shnei Achayot. You have a case of two brothers married to two sisters. Met Echad Mehem, one of the brothers dies. V'achar kach meta ishto, and then afterwards his sister dies. So I'm sorry, meta ishto shel sheni, the other brother's wife dies. Which is his sister-in-law, right? So harezo asura alav olamit. In that case, the wife of Reuven is asura on Shimon, right? So the case was you have Reuven and Shimon married to two sisters. First Reuven dies, and then Shimon's wife dies. So we say no, it doesn't matter. At the time that Reuven died, she was the sister-in-law. So therefore she's asura on the next brother, on Shimon. So that teaches us the same thing, that during that same original falling to Yibum, she became muteret, but it doesn't matter. She's still asura. So harezu asura alav olamit hoil v'ne'esra alav sha'achat. She's asura on that brother, on Shimon, forever, because she was asura at the first moment. So says the Gemara, still Rav is teaching me a little bit more of a chidush. Why? Ma'odete mahatam hu de'idchila mehai beta legamre. In that case, you only had two brothers. So once Reuven died and she couldn't do Yibum to Shimon, she was 100% free. So she was out of that household completely. Therefore, she's done and she can't ever be together with Shimon. Aval hacha de lo itchile mehai beta legamre. But in our case, you have a third brother. So she's not fully out of the house. Just because she can't do Yibum to Shimon and she's asura on Shimon when she first falls, but she's still connected to that household because there are other brothers that she could do Yibum to. And since that's the case, I would have said, Ema, migo dechazia lehai nasui nochrit, since this lady who fell to Yibum is able to marry the third brother, the Levi, who's married to Nochrit, chazia nami lahai, I would have thought that if the middle brother's wife dies, Shimon's wife dies, she could also marry Shimon because she never was pitura from this household completely. So Kamash Malan, therefore Rav is coming to teach me that even in such a case, she is asura to marry Shimon. So it comes out that she's not allowed to marry the brother who, if at the time that she fell to Yibum, one of the brothers was her brother-in-law, right, was married to her sister, so she's not allowed to do Yibum to that brother, even if her sister dies and technically should become mutar, doesn't matter. Okay, next Mishnah. Let's go a little bit further. So this part gets a little bit tricky. For Shacharit, we'll have a minyan. People come a little bit later. Okay, so it says in the Mishnah. Yeah, I don't know if we'll get through all of this. We'll try. Shlosha achim, shnayim mehem nisuin shtei achayot. So cases, two brothers, two of them are married to two sisters. Ve'echad nasui nochrit. One of them is married to a nochrit. Okay, so now giresh echad mi baalei achayot et ishto. Reuven, one of the ones who's married to a sister, he divorces his wife.
Divorces his wife.
Yeah. Ve'met nasui nochrit, and then the nasui nochrit Levi. Okay, Tov. Levi, he dies. Okay? So Reuven divorced his wife, and then Levi dies. V'kansaham garesh. And then Reuven marries, he does Yibum to Levi's wife. Okay? So Reuven and Shimon were married to sisters.
Divorced his wife.
Yeah.
And Levi died. So Reuven could get Yibum the Levi's wife.
Yeah.
Okay.
And at the time that he did Yibum to Levi's wife, he was not married to Shimon's sister-in-law.
Because she divorced.
Yeah, because he divorced her. Exactly.
So it still calls the.
Okay, so let's see what the Mishnah says. So Edishto v'met. So he v'met nasur nechon kansam garesh v'met. So zuhi shamru v'chulan shemetu o nitgarshu tzarotehem mutarot. In that case, the tzara is mutar. Yeah, meaning because she's not a tzarat erva, because Reuven divorced his wife before he did Yibum to this Nochrit. So originally Reuven and Shimon were married to brothers. Reuven divorced his wife. They were married to sisters, sorry. Reuven divorced his wife, which is Shimon's wife's sister, and then he did Yibum to a Nochrit. And then he died. So that Nochrit is allowed to do Yibum. Shimon is allowed to do Yibum to that Nochrit because she's not a Tzarat Erva, because at the time that she married to Reuven had already divorced his wife. Okay, so says the Gemara, Ta'ama de Giresh ve'achar kach met. The whole reason that the halacha is this way is because first Reuven divorced his wife, and then the third brother Levi died. Aval met ve'achar kach girish. But let's say that Reuven would have, that Levi, the third brother, would have first died, and his wife would have fallen to Yibum. Ve'achar kach girish. And then Reuven divorced his wife. Asura. It sounds like you have a diuk from the Mishnah that in such a case, and then afterwards, she would be asura to Levi, because she would be a tzarat erva through the zika that she has with Reuven and his family. So, Amar Rav Ashi, Zot omeret yesh zika. Rav Ashi says, you see from here, yesh zika va'afilu betray, even with two brothers, va'afilu betray ache, right? Because what do you have over here? You have three brothers. There's a diuk from the Mishnah. The Mishnah says, well, the case is that first Reuven divorces his wife, and then Levi dies. But it sounds like if first Levi dies, and then Reuven divorces his wife and does yibum to Levi's wife, so in that case, it sounds like she would be considered a tzarat erva, and right, that's the diuk from our Mishnah. And if that's the case, you have to say yesh zika, that Levi's wife has a zika, is connected very strongly to these two brothers, and therefore she's a tzarat erva to Shimon. So the Gemara says, 1 second, Ul Rav Ashi kasha de Rav Nachman. According to Rav Ashi, we have a question from Rav Nachman. On the very, very top of this Amud, Rav Nachman proved from the first Mishnah, Ein Zika. So Rav Ashi is proving from this Mishnah, Yesh Zika. Rav Nachman proved from the very, very top, from the first Mishnah, Ein Zika. What was his proof? So his proof was that it said in the Mishnah that if Reuven dies and Levi, the third brother, does Ma'amar, then, his his wife cannot do yibum. He cannot do yibum. He can only do, if he dies, he can only do yibum, not chalitza. But it sounds like only if he did ma'amar. If he didn't do ma'amar, the zika is not enough to make her a tzarat erva. So that was the raya that Rav Nachman had. So you basically have two conflicts. Rav Ashi is saying from our Mishnah, yesh zika, and Rav Nachman is saying from that Mishnah, ein zika. So the Gemara asks, Rav Ashi, kasha, according to Rav Ashi, kasha de Rav Nachman. You have a question from what Rav Nachman said. So Amar lech Rav Ashi, so Rav Ashi says, no. Hu adin, daf agav de lo avad ba ma'amar. Even if Levi did not do ma'amar, in the first case, we have Reuven, Shimon, and Levi. Reuven dies, and Levi does ma'amar. So he says, it's true, even if Levi would not have done ma'amar, still, there is a zikah which is strong enough to make it that his wife, when he dies, cannot do yibum because she's a tzarat erva through the zikah with Reuven's wife. So nochrit michlatz chalitza yibum lo miyavma. Still, she only does chalitza, not yibum. Vadiktani ma'amar. But it says specifically, it's talking about a case where he did ma'amar. She says, no, that's not telling me that only if he did ma'amar. That's coming la'afuke beit Shammai. Damar ma'amar kone kinyan gamur. That's coming to exclude beit Shammai, to say that even though ma'amar is done, we don't say ma'amar is kone kinyan gamur and disconnects the zika from the erva. Kamash malan, that we do not say that. Meaning we don't say that the Eshet Nochrit doesn't require Yibum or Chalitza because Ma'amar was done to an erva, and then when Levi dies, we don't say that, oh, well, his wife was a Tzarat erva through the Zika, and therefore she's Pitura Legamre. That's what Beit Shammai would say, because Ma'amar was done. She's a Tzarat erva through the Ma'amar, not through the Zika, through the Ma'amar. So that I would have thought like Beit Shammai. Kamash Malan is just coming to teach me that no, this is not like Beit Shammai. That's why it says specifically a case of Ma'amar, meaning even though he did Ma'amar and he died, still his wife requires Chalitza. That's the Okay, so that Rav Ashi is good. Rav Ashi can work out both Mishnayot. So Rav Nachman, Kasha de Rav Ashi. Well, according to Rav Nachman, we have Rav Ashi's issue. Rav Ashi proved from this Mishnah that Yesh Zika. So v'chitema hu adin dafilu med v'achar kach giresh tzarata. If you want to tell me that this Mishnah, it's not. Don't make a diuk that first Levi died and then first Reuven divorced his wife and then Levi died. Mashma that if first Levi would have died and then Reuven would have divorced his wife, they would not be allowed to get married. She would be asura. If you're going to tell me that the same would be true if first Levi, the third brother, died, and then afterwards Reuven divorced his wife, tzarata muteret, still her tzara would be muteret. Ela zuhi lemute mai. So if that's the case, what are we coming to exclude? Meaning we're saying this is a case where it's called, giresh and tzarat erva is she's not a tzarat erva. So what are we excluding? We're saying this is the case where there's not a tzarat erva. So then what is the case that she is a tzarat erva that we're excluding? Right? Again, just to clarify. I don't know if we're gonna make it to the. Maybe we'll just stop here and we'll try to, even though it's in the middle of an inyan, we'll try to